Hey guys, welcome to yet another episode of the Higher Line podcast. Got a super cool guest today, a young man named Peter Dankelson. And Pete actually lives not too far from me in Chicagoland. I was hanging out one day with my father, who's a lifelong musician, and he said, "Hey, check this kid out. He rips it on the guitar." And so I saw him and saw where he was from. He's got an Instagram account like we do. And so I sent him a message and they got back to me, and here we are. And I think his story is amazing. You've now at 22 years old has spent the bulk of the last number of years working to proliferate kindness in the world, which I think is a pretty cool endeavor. So welcome, Peter. Tell us just a little bit about yourself, and we'll kind of like unpackage and dig through some of your story as we go.
Yeah, so Peter Dankelson, 22 years old. Been playing since 2015, so 7 years. Yeah. Live in the Mundelein, northern Chicago area. So yeah.
You've got a couple of books. One of them's your autobiography.
Yep.
And then you recently released, I guess it's more of like a picture book for children.
Yeah, those are really it's like mom's passion project. So it's kind of cool because with the autobiography, how that all kind of came about and why it even got published is because on social media primarily it's all about the guitar, right? I love playing, posted videos, and just having fun. But then when I started sharing some of my medical story, not a lot of people knew about that side of things. So the book really kind of talks about all of the medical stuff more than the guitar playing. So that's kind of how that came about, and especially in the early years. Like I had a ton of surgeries.
I think about 30. Is that correct?
Yeah, rounding up, it's about 30. I think it's really about like 20. I have lost count, but it's way
a
over
lot.
20. Yeah, it's a lot.
What? So let's just go back a little bit. I know you were born really premature, like 30 weeks. Maybe that's where that number stuck in my head.
Yeah, I think that's about right. Yeah,
and according to mom, you spent like 102 days in the NICU, the neonatal intensive care. That's a long time.
From October to January. So yeah,
wow.
Quite a
while. Just talk a little bit about that journey.
Well, that's kind of interesting because don't really remember too much of it.
but I know you hear your mother talk about it constantly, and
right,
it's all over your website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of interesting because with the Pete's Diary name, that's what you kind of see on social media and all that. That originally started as basically a diary that mom did when I was born, and it was kind of like she calls it like the dark days of dial-up internet. So like Facebook, social media wasn't a thing at the time. So I think I don't remember how it works, but she'd send out a message just kind of talking about what happened that day to family and friends to kind of keep them in the loop with what was going on with me in the NICU. And it was just kind of called Pete's Diary, and that's kind of how that all started.
And for the listeners, because we didn't tell them yet, that's the business, right? Pete's Diary LLC. Yep. So that's the business around, I shouldn't even say business. That's the organization that you guys have put together to help bring awareness to the stuff you're working on in life. Helping kids become better adults really is the way I'd look at it.
Yeah. That's really what it is. Yeah.
So you've had all these surgeries. You were born different, mm-hmm. and you're missing an ear, clearly.
Yeah.
And that's what the picture book is kind of telling the story of. Talk about that a little bit.
Right. Yeah, that was a fun one to kind of see come together. But yeah, basically, it's a picture book. It's basically a story about self-acceptance. And it just kind of tells the story of, basically, I'm getting ready for the big, music festival, and I don't have, I used to wear a prosthetic ear for a long time. So it kind of talks about, how at the beginning I got made fun of at the music festival because people, were teasing me about the missing ear. And then I got a prosthetic, and then could kind of blend in a little bit. And then at the end of the story, the ear comes off during the performance, and it's kind of like, what's going to happen, and that's kind of like, what, it doesn't really matter, be who you are. And that's like, at the end, you get up on stage, take the big solo. But it's kind of funny because it's based on a true story of when I was 5 years old. What I wanted for my 5th birthday was a big ear, because I think kind of at that, 5 years old, you're kind of starting to become a little bit of aware of your surroundings a little bit, like with being different, like, oh, what's going on with, missing an ear. So, got the prosthetic ear for my 5th birthday and kind of wore that for like all throughout elementary and middle school. And it was great. There were plenty of funny instances where, it would kind of fall off and all that. But then kind of after high school, I kind of stopped wearing it. So, because I just didn't really care about blending it anymore. And plus, it was kind of a pain to put on in the morning anyway, with the glue, with the adhesive, and all that. Oh. So it's just kind of like at that point in my life, I became, fully comfortable with who I am, and I'm like, I don't really need to wear it anymore, because at that point it was just holding up my glasses, and then I got contacts, and I was like, okay, I really don't need. I
didn't think about something like that. You just need to hold your glasses up.
Yeah.
What got you and Mom? You guys have spoke to like 50,000 students around the country, traveled all over, talking to kids. Talk about that a little bit, the thrust of that, the reason behind it, the message.
Yeah, that's a really fun story, because that's kind of like where Pete's Diary really kind of came, I guess you could say, came back, because, it was, started out as basically the diary to keep, family informed with what was going on in the NICU. And then the whole speaking thing came about when basically it all started with the book Wonder. Have you heard of it?
I remember.
Yeah,
I remember the movie too.
Yes, yeah, the movie. Yeah, it got made into a movie a couple of years ago. But basically, when the book came out, it's kind of a whole long story. But basically, I went out and did. It was like a stage reading performance in California. And I got to play the role of the main character in the book and kind of, read excerpts from the story. And then while we were out there, we were staying with some friends out there, and they kind of, they basically booked, I guess, a talk at the school, and me and Mom went in, and basically that conversation was similarities and differences between mine and Augie. He's the main character in the book. So it's just kind of talking about that and kind of bringing, the story to life a little bit and sharing that. And then when we went back home, word of mouth really kind of got around the area of, the talking in California. And then we just kind of started doing speakings there. And then we brought Pete's Diary back to kind of, put all of that under. And then that's kind of been going strong ever since. And it's evolved into so many different things. It's kind of, moved away from Wonder a little bit. It's kind of, talking about my story. It's fully evolved into me telling my story. And now music's kind of brought into it as well. So it's kind of cool how it's changed and evolved over the years.
At some point, you picked up the guitar, right? Yep. So you're on this journey of adolescence and navigating all that business. And yep. One day, how'd you decide on the guitar, not the violin or the cello or the harmonica or the flute or something else?
Well, the harmonica is a work in progress. That's another story. That's a new one I've been working on. But the guitar came about basically because that was it was a really interesting point in my life, because we moved from Michigan to Illinois in between my 8th grade and freshman year of high school.
Okay.
So, moved here, started high school, all the changes that come with moving and, starting new schools, starting over, all of that. Music was kind of a big thing that I could lean into to kind of help myself decompress, relax, and, kind of, handle all the craziness that, was going on with all those changes. So it just kind of started to break away from, what I was listening to in middle school, which is, all the stuff on the radio at the time. And and just kind of started to listen to a little bit more rock and roll, like AC/DC and some of the other, classic rock bands. And really just kind of started listening to it more and more. And that just kind of boiled over into curiosity one day. And I said to my dad, you know what? I think it might be kind of fun to learn how to play guitar. Love the sounds, might be kind of fun. And he's like, really? Huh? Because I've tried so many different things and nothing's ever stuck up until that point. And he's like, okay. Well, and lucky for me, he had a guitar amp and distortion pedal in a box in storage. And that Cheap Trick, it's a booklet, but it's kind of like a poster now. That was in there too, and a bunch of other stuff. So I kind of got started on all that stuff and went on YouTube and started looking up lessons, and been obsessed ever since. Yeah.
Is your dad play? He's got the guitar. Does he play?
Yes. Yeah. He did in high school. Yeah.
So he didn't stick with it like you have been.
No, not really. I mean, he'll noodle around with it sometimes, but yeah, he doesn't really play too much anymore.
Now you're teaching him.
Exactly. Yeah.
What kind of guitar was it that he had in that storage?
I don't have it out. It's like stuck in the back of the closet, but it's a Fender Music Master. I actually
sure.
Kind of recently. Yeah, it was just like a one neck pickup kind of Strat looking guitar. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah,
I know what that is.
Yeah.
So you're a young kid. I got a son your age. I shouldn't call you a kid. You're a young man. You've got your influence. Like if you go online and look, you're playing the blues. You're playing, like you said, AC/DC and Zeppelin, and you got a Lemmy shirt on.
Yes. Yeah.
Like is that the kind of stuff Pop listened to? Your dad when you were growing up? Is that how you kind of were attracted to that?
Yeah, well, yeah, I can definitely think of. I tell this story all the time, but it's a cool one. Like I remember one time we were in the car, like years and years before I even picked up the guitar, like maybe late elementary, early middle school. It was in the car. We were driving home from somewhere, and Eruption came on the radio or his playlist or whatever it was. And just like, oh, check this out. Like, this is something I grew up listening to, and cranked it up. And like, I didn't know anything about, the influence of Van Halen or what he meant to, what he means to guitar players and all of that. And just Eruption, it was just kind of like, whoa. And to me, looking back at that moment, it's just so cool. Cause even like someone that knew nothing about the guitar or anything about Eddie's impact, I was still blown away and knew that, certain piece was special.
One of the greatest that ever lived right there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's cool. That's a good kind of anchoring memory for you. So
yeah.
And I just heard you actually, I think, playing that on an SG as I was noodling through your stuff.
Yeah. I did some, it wasn't an Eruption. It was probably like Hopper Teacher was kind of the latest fun one I've been jamming. Yeah.
That sounds right. Sounds right.
There were a few I did recently. It was like Ain't Talking About Love, Running with the Devil. I'm the One. That's a huge favorite. Yeah.
And you write your own tunes too, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Do you sing?
Not really. I mean, I'm trying. But yeah, not much.
Let's see. Is this?
Oh, that's
This is Let There Be Rock.
Oh yeah.
Just for the listeners to see a little bit. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I love that solo too. Yeah.
So you got a band?
Yep.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so clever name, Peter Dankelson Band.
It's a good name.
But it's kind of fun how that all came about. Basically, it all came about when COVID kind of started. And it was weird because I graduated high school in 2019. So it's kind of like, I had a couple months and like early fall, I had a huge airway surgery. Basically the fall was kind of all surgery stuff. And then winter, I remember kind of came about. It's kind of like, okay, what's next? Because I didn't go to college. The surgeries were done. It's kind of like, okay, what now? It's like, well, why don't you do music? So I went to a school of rock right in Libertyville. That's and at the time, the drum instructor there, Ryan, we I'm trying to remember. It was just kind of like, oh yeah, I got some original ideas going. We were kind of talking one day, and I'm like, oh yeah, I think it would be fun to jam. And Ryan's like, well, you said you're looking for a drummer. Do you want to jam? It's like, oh yeah, okay. So went over to his house and kind of had some ideas. And I think this was after COVID. I'm trying to remember. It's kind of starting to get a bit hazy now, but I think it was kind of after COVID started a little bit, and kind of had a couple ideas running around. And then we just kind of started working together, put some tunes together. And basically it was just kind of all of that. Like we kind of get together and just basically jam on these ideas. And then in spring of 2021, we it's kind of like, okay, we want to do an EP or album, but who's going to sing? And it's like, am I going to do it? And I'm like, I don't really want to. So it's kind of like, okay, well, who are we going to find? And a good friend of mine, Mac, who I've known all throughout School of Rock, I talked to him, and he came over and we jammed a little bit. And it was perfect. And he's a great guitar player too. But we kind of talked him into playing bass. He was nice enough to pick up the bass.
Cool.
And it's just kind of like, okay, well, okay, you're singing and playing bass. Do you want to just roll with the trio format? That's kind of like, okay. You don't really see too many trios anymore, so that's kind of fun and unique and interesting. So we just kind of been rolling with that ever since. And then went into a studio and recorded a couple tunes last year, and then it came out in the spring. So yeah, that's been a lot of fun.
That's fantastic. People can go on your website and find some gigs and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, there's a few dates out there. I think there's some in January. I think the earliest, we just played the House of Blues on Friday, and that was really fun. But I don't think we have anything booked until January. There might be some stuff we're working on, but so far it looks like January is the next one when we have a couple of shows.
Which one? Were you at the one downtown?
Yep, in Chicago. Yeah.
How'd that feel to be on a stage where some of the greatest bluesmen and rockers in the world have played? How'd that feel? Was that cool? Have you been up on that stage before?
Well, it wasn't the main stage, like in the upstairs area. It was the restaurant stage. We haven't graduated to that level quite yet, but the restaurant stage is a lot of fun. As a trio, we can still move around and get a lot of energy.
Okay.
Get a lot of energy going, and people were having a good time. Everyone's drinking and having a lot of fun. But on the way out, somebody I think that worked there is like, man, we got to get you on the big stage up there. It's like, you guys would tear the roof off of it. And I'm like, hey, that'd be a lot of fun. So yeah, I mean, it's just been a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Kind of, earning our stripes, just kind of keep rolling and seeing, what new opportunities come up. Yeah. And getting tighter and tighter as a live act too. That's been really, really fun to kind of.
You got any plans to bring any other instruments into the mix? Keyboard or something?
Not really. I mean, maybe if we do like a song or something, we might do like it. I guess it would depend on the tune. If there's like a keyboard in the background to kind of maybe fill it out or something. But live, I think just kind of keep rolling with this format. There's something really fun and kind of rootsy about it. It's really neat.
Oh, there's been some great trios. The Cream comes to mind.
We just did a cover of we just put out a cover of Crossroads like 2 weeks ago.
I heard that.
Yeah.
It looks like 12 days ago it went up on YouTube.
Yeah.
I listened to it this morning and it sounds fantastic. I'm gonna pull it up real quick. I was jamming to it this morning as I was doing some chores.
Yeah, so that was kind of fun. That was like not last minute, but it was kind of like, we went into the studio and recorded the original tunes for the EP. And then it was just kind of like for fun. It's like, hey, do you want to do Crossroads? And it's like, it was kind of a little intimidating because we hadn't really rehearsed it as much. So it's kind of like, okay, let's just go in, jam it, and what happens. It's a little, I don't know how to describe it, but, it's a little bit, it could go off the rails. How do you get back on kind of thing? So it's fun. Yeah.
There it is. Can you hear it?
There you go. It kind of popped in and out a little bit. I can hear the drums like a cymbal.
So yeah, that's on your YouTube channel, which is titled Peter Dankelson Official.
Yep.
You guys can check all that stuff out. That's super cool. Hey, let's switch gears back to one of the things that I think attracted me most, besides kicking ass with the guitar and doing cool stuff like that.
Yep.
Your work with kids is probably what I think is most important, and maybe will be in my opinion, the thing that's most impactful about what you are working on. Talk more about that a little bit, and maybe some of your own personal struggles that you're willing to share, and why you're motivated to do this.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I couldn't quite pick out the word. What was it? Talk about
Do I need to get closer to the mic?
No, it was like the one word that kind of cut out. Yeah.
You guys spend so much energy and time working with kids, trying to pass on this message of yours about being kind, about being loving, about being generous and loving. Talk about why that's so important to you. And there's plenty of people that they would say that's important, but those same people are not traveling around the country talking to children, writing children's books, etc.
Yeah, it's it's really interesting because it's really changed a lot, especially in the last couple of years with COVID. 2020 and we had like a little bit in the beginning of 2020. 2021, nothing happened. And it's like 2022, basically, we've been out of practice. We hadn't done it in so long. And it's like, kind of getting back into it, so much has changed. And like the message with the message kind of had to evolve and switch a little bit to, being kind, really starts with being kind to yourself, make yourself feel good and make, everyone around you feel good, be who you are.
Is that something that your mom pounded into you as a little one?
100%. Yeah. Especially, with being in the hospital and stuff, it's all about doing the best you can to have a really good perspective and outlook. Like being in the hospital, it's like, okay, you can be really down on yourself, be like, this sucks. This is, the worst thing in the world. Da, 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 da. But it's like, it's just going to make you feel worse. It's not going to help you get better. You got to try and, mentally get yourself above that and be like, okay, this is the situation right now. It's like, okay, yes, this sucks. This isn't fun, but it's kind of like, you got to keep pushing forward. You can't let this thing hold you back. You got to keep moving forward, and that's going to help you get better. And it's all about kind of realizing that, and this is the main thing that kind of got, pounded into me was, you're always going to find people that are better off than you, but there's also people that are going to be in a bit of a worse situation than you. It's all about having a perspective and being like, okay, this situation isn't fun, but it could be, worse. So it's kind of like, being like, okay, you are getting better at this, you are doing better. You got to keep pushing and pushing to that next level. So I think that's really important and really, important to keep in mind.
I dig that. Did you yourself, did you get picked on, bullied? Were kids like that to you? I mean, kids can be treacherous to each other.
Oh yeah. Yeah. In school, not really, because I went to a small, when we lived in Michigan, I went to a small K-8, private Catholic school. And that was, it's like 50 kids in the whole grade. So like everybody was close and everybody knew each other. So there weren't really like, problems with anyone, everyone knew who I was. I knew who everyone was. So like, it was kind of like, no one, had any problems. And it was like that all throughout, elementary and middle school. So it was great. And then it was just kind of jarring, going from that environment, where you all had, you had the, the uniforms and all that. Mm-hmm. When you go to, I went to a public high school, it's like, you see people walking around with, facial hair and all this, and you're like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? So it's kind of like, what am I going to get stuffed in a locker? What's going on here? But I mean, it was a great, high school was amazing too. I didn't have any problems with anyone. Everyone was super friendly. And yeah, especially, when music picked up, I became more known as, guitar player than anything else. So that was kind of a fun thing to be known for, different thing to be known for than, with also, they knew about, the speaking and all of that. But to kind of have the guitar player, I guess, I don't know if identity is the right word, but to kind of be known for that as well was pretty fun. Yeah.
I think identity is probably a good word. There's like
Yeah.
there's the kid that's always got BO. There's the
Oh
dude that
yeah.
there's the quarterback that can whip the football across the field, right? There's
Yeah.
a
Right. Right. Yeah.
then there's the kid that's the guitarist. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. The kid that's always got the hot rod and like the
Right.
fast
Yeah.
car and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Calling.
you got definitely. I think identity is a good word.
Mhm.
What's the long-term mission? If it when 10 years goes by, 20 years goes by, what are you trying to do with all of this? Not the music per se, but the speaking, the telling of the story. What do you want people to take away from it?
I think at its core, I don't know. It's interesting because you don't know what's going to happen 10 years from now, or like what on earth, will it change or will it happen in 10 years time? But I still think that the main thing to kind of keep pushing is, be yourself always, never be afraid to, you know, be yourself. I think that's always the really an important thing. Um, and, always kind of keep that mental mindset of, you know, this might not be the best situation, but things could be worse. Always kind of keep pushing yourself, um, to be the best you can be. I think that's really important, and I think that'll always be something that's relevant and you can always talk about. I think that's really important.
So did you struggle personally where you felt like less than, or you keep bringing up this desire or um, mantra to push yourself, why do you,
Mhm.
what were you trying to push yourself away from?
Um, I guess really, just knowing that I look different and all that. There's always, I don't want to say stigma, but there's always kind of a, I guess, some things that can be linked to you that might not always be the most positive. Not necessarily in a way that, like, prove people wrong kind of a thing, but kind of channel it in a way that, I don't know. It's kind of, I'm trying to think of how to describe it. Um, hmm, um, let's see. I don't know. It's kind of tough to describe. It's kind of like you're always, it's like you're pushing yourself to be the best you can be, but always kind of, be a good influence to those around you, kind of a
Yeah,
thing.
I think that's a wonderful thing. I, I think your point of proving people wrong, sometimes we can work really hard to prove people wrong, and our motives aren't to do good or to achieve some
Right. Sometimes it
goal
can
or
be a bit.
prize. It's just like make sure people know I'm good enough. And then I think those
Right.
motives are not maybe the best use of our time or life.
No, no.
So we're
It's
just
like,
working to change people's opinions.
right. It's really like at the end of the day, be yourself, but be like um, yeah. I mean, really, yeah. It's kind of like, yeah. I don't know, not trying to be better than everyone else, but be the best that you can be, and be a positive influence. Don't be because people can kind of associate that with being stuck up and stuff. It's like no, 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 no. You know, there's a different way to go about that too. You know,
What what type of positivity do you want the world to soak up from your life?
I guess really, it's like the main thing is be a victor, not a victim. You see a lot of people, it's tough because there's lots of people that are in different situations. You don't know what their mental space might be or that kind of thing. But it's always kind of um, not be mentally tough, but always kind of keep striving to, um, I guess, see the good more than the bad. I think that's kind of the main thing.
It sounds like your mom was hugely influential and helping steer you. I'm sure there were lots of times while you were sitting alone in a hospital bed recovering or in your room, and you're a young dude yet. So maybe you'll reflect back on it different when you're my age or your
Mhm.
grandfather's age or something.
Yeah.
But Um, did you ever start to feel sorry for yourself? Like, man, this freaking sucks. I got
100%.
bandages all
Yeah.
over me, and why the hell's this happening? Why'd this have to happen to me?
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, you would too if you're in that situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I guess I wasn't asking. I guess what I
yeah.
was asking is, how did you, or what did you do in those moments as you're sitting there thinking about surgery 18, surgery 20, surgery
Right.
22?
I guess, you know, especially a good example is when I had in 2019, fall 2019, I had a huge airway surgery, kind of a complicated thing, but basically, you know, I had an open stoma for my whole life up until that point.
Really?
Yeah. Because I had a trach until I was 4, but the stoma was still there, you know, just because my airway is so small. So it just kind of helped me breathe better.
So for those of you listening, basically what he's saying is he had an open hole through the front of his neck into his trachea. That
yeah.
Did you just you had it covered up most of the time, I'm assuming, as you went to school, and yeah.
So yeah, that finally got closed in 2019. But basically, I'll never forget this. But I was in ICU on a vent, you know, for like probably a week. I mean, I don't really remember much of it because I was kind of in and out of, you know, being sedated and all that. But and I think kind of after all that, you know, it's kind of like, that's kind of one of the things. It's like, okay, you got over this monster hurdle. You're awake. You can kind of keep moving now. You know, you're keep not pushing yourself, but you're like, okay, you're making progress. You're doing well, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like, you know, you definitely kind of have that, okay, this sucks kind of a thing, you know, going with it. But it's like, you know, being on ICU, you see some really tough stuff happen, from doctors running around and alarms going off. It kind of puts you in your place real fast. Not like in a okay, you know, not in kind of a crazy way, but it's kind of like you know, it's like, okay, you know, this is a tough situation, but it makes you realize real quick that okay, this things could be much worse. Like, you know, be grateful for what, you know, how things are going for you right now. I just keep going forward. Yeah.
It had to feel pretty crazy having that stoma closed up after it was there your whole childhood. Was it?
Yes. Yeah, that was very bizarre. I remember it was after I got the vent out, I sneezed for the first time without the whole, and you know, basically with sneezing, you know, it just flies out wherever. And for me, that was always the open stoma. So
because that's the easiest spot for that pressure to escape. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So I sneezed for the first time and I hurt myself. Yeah, because that stomach was all closed up. It's just, and I remember, I think Mom was in the room. She's like, "What was that?" I'm like, I tried to sneeze. It was like this horrible sound or whatever.
The things that the normal person takes for granted not having. I had a great uncle that had a stoma. He'd always joke around, like he'd take like a quarter and pretend like he was going to. Yeah, his name was Harold. But somebody that doesn't have something like that, you take something as simple as sneezing for granted. So I appreciate hearing that story.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
Is there more surgeries like that planned for you?
No, that was the last big one. That was the last big one. That was a tough one.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, the only other like procedure I had was in the spring. I mean, this was I wouldn't say it's common, but okay, I guess it's common, but it's a pretty common procedure. Ear tubes. You know, like everybody else, or mostly everybody else, I think, you know, I had them put in when I was really little. But my problem was it kept falling out. So, you know, when I had to go get it put back in, the ENT basically said, okay, you know, this thing's going, or told my parents that, okay, this thing's going in and it's not coming out. And turns out he was right, because I mean, it was in there until the spring. And basically it just kind of stayed there because it wasn't causing problems. But then I don't know, it was kind of like having a weird itchy feeling. I don't know. It's kind of hard to describe, but basically it was feeling pretty irritated. So it's kind of like, okay, it's time for that to come out. So that was the surgery in the spring.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't as major as the airway reconstructive surgery.
So it looks like I'm assuming on your left side where you're missing the exterior ear, you have the interior portion of it.
Yeah, that's the best way to yeah, that's how I.
So you've got the eardrum and cochlea and all that stuff on the inside. So it is the device that we're looking at. Is that like an exterior hearing device, hearing aid?
Yeah, it's a basically this one's called a bone anchored hearing aid, or a Baha.
So it's conducting through the bone into your inner ear.
Yeah. So basically, there's I had the surgery like right around the time I picked up the guitar, really. So like 2015, it was basically there's a screw in the skull with a magnet that sits on top of that, and then it's sewed up and everything under the skin, and then this then the hearing aid just kind of attaches on and off with that. Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
What did you do to utilize that before you had that? Were you just not able to hear out of that side?
I'd done some stuff in elementary and middle school, but I never liked wearing it because I had it was on like a headband. It was just like this really annoying, itchy headband. And it just, I don't know, never liked how it looked. It just looked weird.
How does this device work compared to the other stuff that you've had?
I mean, it was similar. It was really similar. In kind of that way. I mean, basically it's the same thing, but without the headband, and then I kind of decided on my own, like at 15, it was kind of like, okay, this would be really helpful to have. This would be really cool. So I did a couple, trial runs and all that, and decided, okay, let's do, because there were some other, different procedures you could do. Like there was like a post that you could do, but I always heard that there were like, skin irritation issues. So the Attract was like the best way to go. So that was kind of the one that we chose in the end. Yeah.
So now do you have super hearing on that side?
Yeah. Not really, but I can hear, I guess in stereo, which is really cool.
It's a big deal. People that don't understand that, I've got some hearing loss, and you can't hear stereo. You also can't locate where sound's coming from and people don't. You need two ears to properly pick up, just like you need two eyes to have depth perception. I'm blind in one eye, legally speaking, and I've got some hearing damage. I've got hearing aids and a couple of very good ones, not the same as what you've got going on, of course, but I can't get used to them because it's just like, it makes everything so sensitive. And
it's definitely an adjustment. Yeah. It took me a while to kind of adapt to it, but now it's like, I know what to expect when it's on, know what to expect when it's off, like that kind of thing. Like it's just kind of a night and day, literally kind of thing.
Do you wear a monitor in your monitor when you're playing?
No. I mean, I don't know how that would work. It's just wedges on stage for everything so far.
By wedges, you're saying monitors on the floor.
Yeah, monitors on the floor.
Not everybody's a musician, man. You're talking normal people too. People that are not guitar geeks.
Yeah.
I've actually never heard that term. I knew what you meant when you said it. I assumed you're talking about monitors sitting on the floor.
At least that's what I think it is. Yeah, I could be way off.
You concerned at all about protecting your hearing? Like I've got.
100. Yes.
So do you do earplugs at all or anything on stage?
Yeah, I have. Well, it's great because being a one-eared musician, earplugs always come in a pack of two. So, I mean, it's literally. I always joke it's a 2-for-1 deal. So it's perfect. But there's like a specific one I had. It was like kind of a luck of the draw thing. I had kind of a custom one made at some, I don't know. It wasn't like a deal or anything. It was just kind of like a booth at a place where they were doing stuff for artists.
Sure.
So it's kind of like they took a mold of the ear, I remember. And actually I had it right up here so I don't lose it. It's kind of gross, but basically it's a custom mold and it kind of fits.
Yeah.
But it it doesn't like, fully dampen the sound, but it protects like what it
Cuts
needs.
out 10 or 20 decibels, and you can still
Yeah,
hear the other
I don't know what
instruments.
I don't know what the kind of the science behind it is, but it protects the hearing, but doesn't kind of dampen the sound too much. So it works great. Yeah. But yeah, I'm very, like lately I've gotten really serious about protecting my hearing, especially in rehearsals, because Ryan's got this, it's a garage band, right? So for rehearsals, so, it's, really loud, Ryan's got this stupid big drum set with cymbals crashing everywhere. So it's kind of like, okay, yeah, you need earplugs every rehearsal. So yeah, I've been pretty serious about that.
And you know this because of how the device you've got on your left side works. Sound travels. So I'm a shooting instructor. Even the sound travels through your bone, and people don't think about that. Like guys shooting rifles have their butt stock up against their cheek.
Yes.
And that the harmonics travel through the stock into your bone, and you can get serious damage that way too. Maybe you want to get some over ears for when you're in the garage setting, just to limit that. I got my sister Karen, who I'm sure will end up seeing this. She's a professional musician. She and I both are always saying, can you say that again? Excuse me. What'd you say? Huh? What did you say? Huh?
I do that too.
My dad has still got good hearing though. So I don't know. Maybe some people just are susceptible to that damage.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
I'll get you some Pro Ears. It's a company I work with. They've got microphones in them, so they cut off sound that goes over a certain decibel, but the microphones allow sound to come in. Nice speakers inside the ears, so they look like this. But anything over a certain decibel level, it clips it so it doesn't smoke your ear. It's kind of a nice option to have. But so, what do you do besides play guitar, write children's books, teach kids to be nice people? What else do you do?
That's pretty much my life at the moment.
That's your whole passion?
Yeah, that's pretty much what's been going on.
You into cars? You into motorcycles? You into chicks? You into mermaids?
Yeah. No, I mean, guitar is really, I mean, if I'm not playing the guitar, I'm always looking at live performances on YouTube and just really learning as much as I can. I kind of alluded to it earlier, but I've been kind of slowly learning the harmonica as well. That's kind of.
Do you have one handy?
It's like right off to the side. I can grab one really quick.
Grab one.
Yeah.
Do I have one handy?
I got quite a few here handy. Nice. I can't really do that yet. I can do a Me No Susanna, but that's about it.
What do you got?
So actually, it's kind of it's a bit of a sad story, but it's kind of a sweet one. My great grandfather, he taught himself. It's kind of a cool story, but basically, my great grandpa, he served in World War II.
Okay.
And his stories he told were amazing. He taught himself. He was in Japan after the atomic bombs dropped, and
wow,
he had pictures of Hiroshima and all this stuff. And I did an interview with him when I was little, and he told all these like just crazy interesting stories from that time. And one of the things he talked about was he taught himself how to play harmonica. Basically, it sounded like he was on guard duty, right? So, and there was a lot with tires and stuff, and it sounded like Japanese soldiers would try and, I guess, jump the fence and steal tires and stuff. So he was, he was one of the guys that was there and just kind of like, monitoring the area. And he said, there's nobody to talk to, and they were all spaced out really far. And one day it sounded like somebody handed him a harmonica, and he just kind of taught himself how to play that for fun. And it sounded like, when my grandma and mom were growing up, he'd play for them. And stuff. And when I saw him a couple of years ago and, kind of talked to him about it more, being a musician, he smoked since he was 13. So, I mean, wow. It's kind of like, could he even play anymore? And he picked it up and was kind of fooling around with it. So that was really cool to see. And basically, he lived a great 95 years, but he recently, unfortunately, passed away. And
sorry to hear that.
Yeah,
95 is a good long life, especially for a man that smoked for. He
I
smoked even
know.
into his 90s.
Oh, he said he said he he had a problem. It sounded like a falling quite a bit. So it sounded like the doctor said one time he's like, you gotta, I think it might be time to quit smoking. And Grandpa's like, that's all I got left. He's like, I can't drive or do all this stuff anymore. So Grandpa's like, come on, at least let me have my cigarettes. So he kept going. And the last time I saw him too, we pull up to his house and he'd be sitting in his garage with with the lighter and pack on his lap. So that was pretty funny. But basically, I have a bunch of his harmonicas here. And I've been
That's
kind of
cool.
it's really cool. I feel really lucky to have them, and I've just kind of been fooling around with them for fun. But basically, I've been trying to find not replicas, but like I guess like the same models he used, and kind
That's a
of
Marine band there, I
kind
see.
of around those Marine bands. So like the common
That's a
ones.
great harmonica.
Yeah, Marine band, and it looked like a blues band as well. I found on Street.
Those are good cheap harmonicas. You bend the notes a few times though, and they're smoked.
Yeah, I mean that's what I saw.
The reeds get fractured.
And then there's a few more here. There's his Marine, but there's some interesting stuff. Another one from Honer is the Great Little Harp.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, just kind of been looking for that a little bit. And kind of fooling around with that. And then this other one, I think it's called a tremolo harmonica.
oh, it's got the vibrato button on the side of it.
No, he had a Gretsch chromatic harmonica.
Okay, that's
that had the valve on the side.
Yeah.
But this other one here, there's two more here that I have. Mississippi. I don't know if it was a one-off brand or something he might have found somewhere.
That's cool.
I think it's I lost count, but I think it's a 20-hole tremolo. I don't know. As a guitar player, I kind of say it's like a 12-string.
Okay.
Kind of that vibe. And then this other one here, this one didn't have a case, so I joke it took the worst of the secondhand smoke in the house. So the plate's all bent out of shape, but it's a Victory band. I hadn't really heard of it before.
That's cool.
Yeah, but this one, it's so out of tune. It didn't have a case or anything, so it's just full of dirt and grime. But yeah, I just kind of been basically I bought the one Marine band. I just kind of been teaching myself on that a little bit. So that's kind of it so far. But I want to keep doing.
What key did you get?
C.
C.
Yeah, pretty common. Yeah.
You got a guitar handy?
Oh yeah, I have like the big wall right over here. Is there a specific one?
Can you play a little riff for us?
Yeah, and I have a little amp too as well. There we go.
Oh, cool. The SG.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I don't know. What do you want to hear?
You play whatever moves you.
Okay.
Uh-oh. It's clipping. It's causing your mic to clip.
Yeah, I know that can happen sometimes.
That's cool.
Yeah,
how often you playing each day? How many hours a day are you sitting with the guitar?
Oh man, I try to at least get a couple hours in. I have to play every day. I always feel like incomplete if I don't pick it up for at least a little bit every day.
Is there any new songs you're working on, or any like old, maybe not even new to you, but just something you heard that you're like, I want to figure that out and are working on?
Well, the big one right now, I think for every guitar player, is the new Metallica tune. Yeah,
I haven't even probably heard it.
Oh, it's great. I love it. It's hang on, let's see if I can remember. So yeah,
That's cool.
that's a fun one to play. Yeah, it's great. I've really been
Well,
digging it.
what I first saw of you was playing some blues. Let's hear a little blues
Oh
before you
yeah.
put that thing down. That's awesome. Favorite blues guitarist? If you could go back in time and meet him, hang out with him, who would you do?
That's a tough one. I'm a big fan of Freddie King. I really love his playing a lot.
Ah, Freddie, huh?
Yeah.
Albert's
Okay.
Albert
Yeah. I
King.
mean, you can't go wrong with any of the three Kings.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many great ones. I mean, from Muddy and Alan Wolf, to even a lot of those British guys like Peter Green as well. There's so many. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What's cool is how so many of them influenced each other.
Yes, yeah, that's something I love kind of tracing back to. Like starting out with AC/DC. I mean, Amos is really a blues player, at heart with all the licks and stuff that he does. And you kind of go back to the 60s and you hear stuff like, Stones, Yardbirds, Zeppelin. I mean, what he was probably listening to, Hendrix, of course, all this stuff. And then, you keep going back further and you find, all those blues guys like Muddy, Buddy Guy, all of those players. So it really is kind of fun tracing back and seeing, all of these influences, or kind of picking out all of these influences that a lot of these players have. It's really fun. And, in turn, being inspired by them and kind of putting your own twist on it. It's a lot of fun.
It's interesting now to hear. It's probably hard to even have your own sound because there's so many people that have come up with, from how to set the guitar up to amp settings and all of the effects and stuff. Like I forget what's the band. They sound a lot like Led Zeppelin.
Oh, is it Greg Van Fleet?
Right. That's them. Yeah. Like the first time I heard one of their songs, I'm like, Zeppelin tune that I've never heard. And then like I saw somebody interviewed them and said that, and they're like, we've never even heard of Led Zeppelin. It's like, wait a minute.
That might be a bit of a stretch there, but I saw them live quite a few years ago, and I think they're starting to sell out. Look, I saw their touring schedule today. It looks like they're doing arenas and stuff now, which is amazing. And I just cool. saw them in at the Aragon Ballroom.
Oh, cool.
In Chicago, and they tore it up. They were fantastic. And yeah, their latest album that they put out last year is definitely it. People are like, it sounds like Zeppelin. It's definitely kind of a departure from that Zeppelin-esque sound. They put their own kind of spin on it and stuff. It's really interesting. They're great.
Okay. Well, there was just the one tune that I had heard.
Right. Oh yeah.
The one, which I can't even think of the one, but
is it Highway 2?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you have favorite band? You got like favorite influence, if you could even narrow it down?
Oh man, well, AC/DC, Angus is definitely number one. I'm still waiting for them to tour. I've been waiting since I picked up the guitar. They ended like not long after I picked it up.
Yeah.
And then they came out with the new album in 2020, and it was fantastic, amazing. Now I'm just waiting for them to tour. I'm like, yeah. Guns N' Roses. I'm a huge Slash fan as well. I love his playing a lot. Gary Moore.
Yeah.
I really love too.
Oh, yeah. Gary. Yeah, for sure. You've done some stuff. You've played with some people. Anybody that you've got to play with it was exciting for you?
Yeah, I've been lucky to meet and play with a lot of people that Buck Cherry. Buck Cherry was a really fun one.
What was the context of that?
So that was pretty fun. Last year, they were coming out with a new album called Hellbound. It's a really great album. I love it. It was one of my favorites that came out, in 2021. And basically, they're I guess, management. I'd done some tunes, kind of covered some tunes for some bands that they had, and shared them before, the Data song came out and all that. And then they said, would you want to jam with a Buck Cherry's, the next Buck Cherry single? And I'm like, of course, that'd be really fun. And then I jammed Hellbound, and the band saw it and shared it and everything, and it was really cool. And then their guitar player, Stevie, he basically said, like, hey, when we're coming to Chicago, let us, we'd love to have you up on stage. And I didn't really know, like, if he was serious or not, but it was like a couple of days before they were playing Summerfest in Milwaukee. So he was like, hey, do you want to play this tune with us, Hellbound? It's like, okay. So sure enough, went up, and it's on YouTube and everything too. It was a lot of fun. Really nice guys. Great band. Yeah, it was awesome.
The dudes from LA Guns, I think.
Yes, Tracy. Yeah. I had the chance to meet him in the summer. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. He's cool. A great guy. Yeah.
That's cool. Man, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us a little bit and tell us some of your story. I think what you and your family are doing to proliferate love and kindness and share your story is fantastic. If you could have some parting words and leave some thoughts for people, what would they be? I'll leave that with you. What you got?
Ooh, okay. Really, like I said, like I kind of kept saying is, always be yourself, always be yourself. The kind of the, I guess, classic saying is, don't blend in when you were born to stand out. Always be yourself.
Say that again, please.
It's hard to blend in, when you're born to stand out. Don't be afraid to always be yourself.
It's hard to blend in when you're born a standout.
Yeah, that was kind of a saying from Wonder. That's always kind of stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's cool. It's fun.
Hey man, if you ever need anything, you got my contact information. Please don't hesitate to ask. How do people find you? If they want to see you, if they want to follow you, how do they find you?
Yeah, so that's Pete's Diary. I forget which accounts have the dot or the dash with Pete's Diary, but it's Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all that good stuff. And there's also show dates on petesdiary.com as well, and a bunch of other stuff out there as well if you want to check that out.
Awesome, dude. I appreciate you. You guys that have listened, go give them a follow. Check it out. If you dig rock music, then you'll definitely like what they got going on. He's a gunslinger with them guitars, and I think the broader message is much needed in this world now more than ever. And the more we can proliferate that, the better. Man, I appreciate you. Tell your mother that I appreciate her, because I believe that was her I was emailing with. Let her know that appreciate the work that she's done. You guys that have tuned in, be well. Don't be dickheads. Yeah.
Visit our website, CarryTrainer.com, for information about classes held throughout the U.S., CarryTrainer apparel, and upcoming projects. You can also email us at training@CarryTrainer.com for information about setting up your own private course or speaking engagement. Training@CarryTrainer.com or CarryTrainer.com.
I said I got me some gunfighter gun law. Gunfighter gun law, baby. Gunfighter gun, oh, no more gunfighter blues. Made in the USA. Amazing lubricity. 100% synthetic, baby. So it's gonna last you longer. So go on CarryTrainer.com and order yourself some gunfighter gun or gunfighter lube to get rid of your gunfighter blues. I said go on and order yourself some gunfighter lube.
Yeah!